Good evening, everybody. Today is the 19th, and actually, probably today is gonna be the last Zen and Zazen class this year. Next week, there's Christmas, and also the people from Antaiji, they will come down to Osaka. So next week on Monday, I want to meet them in the evening. So next week there's no Zen and Zazen class. And then on the 2nd of January and on the 9th, because of New Year's, I won't be in Osaka. So there's no Zazen either. And I think on the 9th, Xuan is teaching pranayama, but on the 2nd of January, there's gonna be a holiday. How about next week, Xuan-san? Is there
Uh,
pranayama or?
yeah, I can do a class next week, but
Mm,
during New Year, I
mm.
want to take a rest.
Okay, so next week, pranayama with Xuan-san on Christmas, and then on the 2nd of January, there's no class, and then on the 9th, again, pranayama. And Zen and Zazen will be back on the 16th of January. And before I talk about the Zen expression, let's sit for half an hour.
那个老师，下周老师要去就是安泰寺的那些人要来那个大阪跟老师见面，所以下周我们上呼吸法的课，然后年初的那个2号那节课呢，我们休息啊，因为过年日本过年那2天，所以我们放假。9号那天也上呼吸法，然后16号是坐禅的课，然后我们还是先做30分钟啊，然后再一块儿讨论。
Thank you very much. It's quite cold in here today, 10 degrees. So I'm gonna put up my hats. How do I remove the spotlight? Okay. And speakers view. Today I want to talk about these 4 characters. In Japanese, you would read these meiju mei, and these 2 characters are the same, and the meaning is delusion or to go astray. So this one means in the midst of delusion, being deluded again, or when you're lost, being lost and going astray again, being lost inside delusion. And I don't know how you think about Buddhism or Zen, but probably a lot of people think that the aim of Buddhism is to wake up from delusion. Right now, we are in delusion, we suffer from delusion, but our aim is to wake up and get enlightened. And for some reason, Dogen, who I talk a lot about because he's the one who is the founder of my school in Japan, Dogen says some interesting things about enlightenment or awakening and delusion. I want to share them with you. This is from the Antaiji homepage. It's a very famous text called Genjo Koan. The text is not very long. If you print it out, it's maybe 3 or 4 pages or so. And what I want to share with you, it comes quite at the beginning. It's this passage here. Let me read it. To carry yourself forward and actualize the myriad things through practice is delusion. That myriad things come forth and actualize yourself through practice is awakening. So here Dogen Zenji first makes us this distinction between delusion on the one hand and awakening on the other hand. Delusion means to start with yourself and approach the world, the many things in the world, and well, to actualize through practice could, for example, mean to say, that's a bird, the sound that I hear. Here's a bird, that's a car. I don't like the car so much. I would love to hear more of the bird. You label all things and you compare them. You judge, this is good for me, that's not so good. And the opposite, you allow everything to approach you and actualize you. That is what Dogen calls awakening in the first 2 sentences. Xuan, if you want to, maybe you can translate up to here.
好，我们今天分享就是那个内容，我下午发到咱们群里边了。然后我们今天分享迷之又迷，这是什么意思呢？就是你迷失在迷失当中，或者是你在迷失当中又迷失了，其实它是这个意思。老师说不知道大家怎么来看待佛的，还有一些佛的教诲哈。我们好像觉得佛就是你应该从迷失当中醒过来，就是从你的虚幻幻境迷失当中醒过来。我们的目标好像是觉醒，或者是达到三摩地。道元禅师呢，就是刚才老师关了，我现在 大概其意思啊，我有点记不住了，就是老师那网站上面有，我们一会儿下课可以自己看看。道元禅师前面他的正法眼藏，他的那本书《正法眼藏》，特别短哈，我回头到时候也可以翻译给大家。那本书发给大家特别短，里面讲到了就是迷失，关于你在迷失当中又迷失这个话题。他一开始其实就说了什么是迷失，还有什么是觉醒啊。老师说，其实就好像我们听到声音一样，比如你听到了鸟叫啊，然后你听到了那个汽车的声音，你喜欢鸟叫，不喜欢汽车的声音，就是你感觉到了这些，你让的这些事物靠近你、走近你，然后你听到它了，其实这个就是觉醒。道元禅师在正言法藏一开头呢，就是给大家是这个概念，就是这些东西呢都走向你，你觉知到它，知道它的时候，其实就是你觉醒的时候。
I want to return to Dogen's text once more. So he makes a pretty clear distinction between delusion and awakening. And then he continues, those who have great realization of delusion are Buddhas. So he doesn't say that those who wake up from delusion are Buddhas, but he says a realization of delusions, those who realize I'm a deluded person. That is a Buddha. And those who are greatly deluded about realizations, realization are sentient beings. Sentient beings are beings that are still inside delusion. And being deluded about realization can mean that you have big dreams about the awakening experience that you want to make in the future. Or it can also mean that you think, I already have it. I am enlightened. That's also big delusion. So interestingly, Dogen says a Buddha is somebody who realizes how deluded he is. And a deluded person is somebody who thinks that he's already enlightened. Further, there are those who continue realizing beyond realization. So those are those who wake up, and even within this awakening, they further wake up. And that's today's phrase, meju ume. Then there are those who are in delusion, throughout delusion, those who inside delusion are even more deluded. At first, one might think that the first, those are the big winners. And the second, those are the losers who don't even realize that they are the losers. But I want to think about this phrase a little bit further. Maybe I continue with the last two sentences here. When Buddhas are truly Buddhas, they do not necessarily notice that they are Buddhas. A true Buddha doesn't think, I'm a Buddha. The opposite is the case, Dogen says. A Buddha is somebody who realizes that he's deluded. So a Buddha wouldn't say, I'm a Buddha. Still, they are actualized Buddhas who go on actualizing Buddhas. How does an actualized Buddha go on actualizing Buddha? It's through practice. So I want to return to the first two sentences once more. It seems that Dogen Zenji makes a clear distinction at first. There's delusion here and awakening over there, but actually it's not so easy, because without delusion, we cannot become Buddhas. Without delusion, we cannot, wake up to practice. In a text that's called Gakudu Yoshinshu, Dogen says, in the midst of delusion, you aspire to practice the way. And in that practice, even though you haven't realized it yet, that practice is already the working of Satori, of enlightenment. But we are still in delusion, so we don't realize that our will to practice, our motivation to practice is enlightenment. We only see delusion. But actually, that's the point. So there's a haiku, which in English translation would be the shadow of the pine tree is so much darker, the lighter or the brighter the moon shines. And the shadow of the pine tree, that's our delusion. And often we don't realize how deluded we are. Why don't we realize it? Because the moon isn't bright. But when you realize I'm stuck in delusion, how can I get out of delusion? That's a sign that the moon is shining, the moon of enlightenment, but it's shining from behind you, so you don't see the moon. You only see the shadow. Maybe I take a break here and Xuan can translate again.
我简单把那个就是我刚才截图了啊，我简单把这个给大家分析，就是稍微简单翻译一下正法眼藏那个道云禅师怎么说的。他说，就是带着我们向前进的，然后就是让你在这迷失当中的练习，这些这些迷失的东西，就是我们迷惘的这些东西，你意识不到这些东西，其实呢，就是通过练习而觉醒的。我们通常说，就是刚老师，我们通常说佛哈，其实佛佛不会说自己是佛，那些说自己是佛的人，其实他不一定是佛。换句话说，其实佛就是其实佛就是意识到自己已经迷失的人，因为他觉醒了，他看到了自己。他看到了自己在迷失，而那些觉得自己没有迷失的人，往往是那些没有觉醒的人，所以这些人他可能是就是真正迷失的人，所以并不是像我们说，并不是像我们平时想的，好像你迷失了你就迷失了。其实你意识到自己迷失呢，你知道了自己，就是没有这些看到了这些虚幻的东西，其实就是你已经觉醒了。也就是说，那些认识到自己迷失的人，其实才真正是佛。呃然后就是我们其实都是在练习当中，就是你是在迷惘当中，是在迷失当中练习的，而这个迷失呢，其实就是我们比如说我们像瑜伽想要达到那个三摩地，或者是你达到另外那种瑜伽的境界哈，我们是因为没有觉醒，所以你看不到。老师刚才举的一个例子特别好，就好像是那个松树的影子。松树的影子越大的时候，它的影子越长越大的时候，其实或者说它的影子颜色越深，或者是你说它的影子，当你能看到它的影子的时候呢，其实就是它的月亮有多高，就是它的亮度有多强，就是月光很强的时候，你才能够看到影子。但是往往我们看不到这个月光，就是我们意识不到，其实你已经醒过来了，你只看到了松树的影子，是因为其实那个光在你身后，你没有看到它。所以我们应该就是老师刚才举的这个例子，就是我们看到影子的同时，其实如果你觉醒过来，意识到是因为有了月光照到了这个松树，然后才让你看到了这些不清楚的黑暗的影子的时候，其实你就已经觉醒了。好到嘴啊，然后老师继续。
I want to return once more to this phrase, someone who's deluded in the midst of delusion. And in Buddhism, one thing that's important is meditation and awakening. But also in Mahayana Buddhism, practice as a bodhisattva with the aim to save all suffering beings is emphasized a lot. On the one hand, you can say that when we sit in Zazen and let go of everything, both delusion and enlightenment stop to exist. There is no delusion anymore, so there's also no need to gain enlightenment. Everything is okay the way it is. And in that moment, when you let go of everything, including delusion and enlightenment, there are no suffering beings that you need to save. Everything is nirvana already. But then a bodhisattva cannot stop there. After Zazen, a bodhisattva returns to the game and says, yes, but still I need to save all these crying people. There are so many suffering people. And in a way you could say that that's delusion. Because from the standpoint of a Buddha, nobody needs to be saved. The world is fine as it is. The universe is fine as it is. But a bodhisattva voluntarily returns to delusion. So a person who's getting lost inside delusion is also a metaphor for bodhisattva. A bodhisattva could retreat to Zazen and say, I just meditate and everything is fine. But a bodhisattva voluntarily returns to delusion and being aware of his own deludedness still tries to help others out of delusion. So this phrase, meiju ume, actually, it's not about the losers kind of in the game, or in a way you could say a bodhisattva is also a loser, but it's a metaphor for a bodhisattva, how a bodhisattva has to live. Bodhisattva has to be aware of his own delusion, and inside this delusion, voluntarily get even deeper in an effort to try to help others out of delusion, although he knows there is no delusion. And still he takes the suffering of other beings serious.
这个好难呀，这个老师又回到了刚才那个迷中又迷那4个字当中啊，他又提到了bodhisattva 就是佛祖，佛呢他是通过坐禅而让自己觉醒，然后醒过来之后，他告诉大家我们那个就是我们在迷失哈，他是在坐禅当中觉醒出来，自己在迷失当中，然后呢，大乘佛教它是普度众生的，就是所以佛祖呢，他是在坐禅当中意识到了自己迷失，然后呢又回到了这个游戏当中，普度众生，让大家告诉大家我们要脱离迷失，就是迷中又迷哈，他在迷当中醒过来，然后告诉了又迷了一次，就是他在迷，明白我意思吗？就是他在迷中坐禅之后醒过来，知道自己迷失了，同时呢，他又回到这个游戏当中，告诉大家不要迷失，因为如果他觉醒出来之后呢，其实他在练习的时候，就是我们佛教里面说他在坐禅其实就是练习哈，瑜伽我们说体式练习或者其他练习，但是佛教里面他在坐禅，就是他在练习的时候呢，其实他已经意识到了，就是那个三摩地。或者是他之后那个境界有和没有其实都是一样的，因为那都已经不存在了。但是因为他是佛祖哈，他意识到了自己的迷失，所以他回到了这个游戏当中，然后呢，来启示大家不要迷失。所以你看，所以说佛祖他其实是一个迷失的人，他意识到自己迷失，然后告诉大家不要迷失。他又回到这个游戏当中，所以他是迷中又迷。他迷了2次，在迷惘当中又迷出来，而且他也是那个迷惘的人，他是那个失去就是迷失的人，大概是这个意思哈。
Okay, so much from my side. If you have questions or anything you would like to share, please start. Chris is raising his hand.
Yes, can you hear me right now?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I don't know if this was discussed by Okumura or anybody else on the Genjo Koan. I think a lot of people talk about it, but this reminds me of the Tao Te Ching in China, and it says like, free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. But mystery and manifestations come from the same source. The source is called darkness. And then he says, darkness within darkness is the gateway to understanding. So I always found that confusing, but in light of what Dogen's saying, maybe you could interpret that as saying something similar, saying that like when you realize you're deluded, which maybe darkness could represent, and then you gain the realization, and then maybe the darkness within darkness is similar to what does Dogen say? There's like realizing. He says deluded within delusion, but does he say realizing within realization on the? Do you think there's a?
Yeah.
So, do you think it's the same thing, or have you noticed a connection there?
I would have to look at the Chinese text. It's interesting. I could imagine that in Taoism, darkness is used in a different sense, like more like the mysterious, the ungraspable, that which cannot be expressed in words, which wouldn't be the same as delusion, more like the opposite of delusion. But it's an interesting comparison. I would have to look at the text.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is before I was confused because I thought the darkness meant more like delusion, but now it sounds like when they say darkness within darkness, it sounds like realization within realization. Do you think that the darkness there in that context could mean something similar as realization in terms of Japanese kanji and Zen?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. It's just that Dogen makes here the point that the two are connected. You cannot say here, this is realization, that's positive, and that's delusion, yet you need to get rid of that. But for him, the two are interconnected.
Last just feedback there is it does say that in the English translation, I forget which one, a common one, it says mystery and manifestation both come from the same source, which was the darkness. So it kind of, that part sounds similar, that the two opposites are similar, but then now it's kind of different because darkness is the source. But anyway, it's kind of interesting to compare. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I might want to take a look at the Tao Te Ching. Any other questions? Anything else you would like to share? Chiaki Genjo, please.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
It's not a question. What Chris just said and asked, and the text or sentence I don't know, but after I listened to you, Moho, and darkness, if you are in middle of darkness, it's like a delusion. You don't notice you are in a darkness. And in darkness, to realize I'm in a darkness, that's a realization, or it sounds like that, what Chris quoted. And like Dogen said, we are in a delusion, and in midst delusion, it's difficult to realize we are in a delusion. And then in that sense, darkness is the source of the realization of what, I don't know anymore what he said, but in darkness, to realize I'm in darkness, it's so difficult to notice. It's not. What do you think, Chris? And what do you think?
I really
you.
like, I don't know the answer, but when you were explaining when you were explaining it, I remembered a long time ago, maybe, okay, then like 20 years ago, like 21 years ago, I had a Kung Fu teacher who was a Shaolin Zen monk. And I was talking to him about this and I asked him about this and I didn't remember this. And he said something like, it's like being a blind person in a dark room. And then that sounded like the same thing you were saying. But I don't know if I gave you any more insight, but it's kind of an interesting thought. Like if you're already blind, I don't know what he meant, but you reminded me of that.
Well, it seems that the Chinese original, which I'm just sharing, the character for darkness is Gen. I don't know what would be contrasted with this again, but well, to connect this to delusion is quite impossible, I guess. Gen is you can find it also in Buddhism. Sometimes the word is used. Well, it's an interesting thought. But of course, there are lots of connections between Taoism and Zen and influences. But I think a big difference that I see, I don't see any equivalent of the idea of the Bodhisattva in Taoism. Taoism emphasizes very much this kind of retreating from the world, taking a break from the game. But I don't see much of an equivalent of the Mahayana idea of returning to the game and play with new rules, which, well, in Taoism you would also play with new rules. You are okay with losing, basically. You are okay with being the last one in the game. But I think in Taoism there's not much of an idea of changing the game for everyone, which would be the Bodhisattva. And why is this idea missing? Well, because it's delusion. Because that would be delusion. But in Mahayana, this kind of delusion gets a positive twist. We need to, in a way, return from darkness into the bright. Kind of, how do you say, the stage, so to speak. We cannot retreat into the dark and just watch what's on the stage, but we have to get back onto the light, into the bright on the stage and live there as bodhisattvas. So I would have to read the whole text once more, but for me, I see as quite different spirits in the Tao Te Ching and in Mahayana Buddhism. Okay, how about the rest of you? Any questions? Any comments? It's already past 9. So if you don't have any other questions, Aiko is raising his hand.
Yes, hello,
Hello.
everyone. I have to think a little bit more about what you have read today and what the others said. It sounds very interesting, the text of Dogen. And yeah, but I have to think a little bit more about it because I have to form the words better, I think. It reminds me also, the first two sentences remind me of the yin-yang symbol. Like, if you are deluded in delusion, you are Buddha. So you are in the darkness and you realize that, then you already have the light inside of you. But if you are on the other side and you, what was the second sentence? I don't know, but you are then already in the darkness somehow, something like that. And yeah, but I have to think about it more. I just want to say thank you very much for this year's lessons, Muo-san, and Merry Christmas to everyone. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
thank
all.
you. Chris writes something in the chat. Yeah, Realizing Genjo Koan by Okumura Shohaku. That's also a German version of that book. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I want to say thank you everybody who participated today and this year, and I hope to see you again next year. So for the next 3 weeks, there's gonna be no Zen and Zazen, but there's gonna be pranayama except for January 2nd, and then on the 16th, I'm back again, and looking forward to see you again in the next year. So have a happy Christmas, have a good New Year. Well, the Chinese participants probably will have their New Year's later when we have already January here, but I hope to see you all again. Thank you.